Well, I'll tell you, we're missing out.
person.
We are, you and I are not hot girls in the fishing world, and that's the missing part of our marketing. We need to
Well,
look.
yeah,
You need to look better in a bikini, John.
I don't have the rest. I mean, it looks like I'm wearing a mohair undershirt
I'm
or
glad we
something.
had this talk. All right, let's make a podcast, John.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Begin Podfix Network transmission in 3, 2, 1.
Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean casting nets, fish nerds, fish nerds, fish nerds. It's a podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Fish Nerds, a show about fish, fishing, and eating fish. It's always funny, usually interesting, and mostly true. I'm Clay Groves, Chief Executive Fish Nerd, Licensed Fishing Guide, and your best friend, joined by John King, the Crappie Hippie. Hi, John.
Hello, everybody. John King, the crappie hippie, your tree-hugging redneck from eastern Kansas and founder of Glasswater Angling, Lead-Free Fishing, here joining Clay tonight on the Fish Nerds. What are we going to do tonight, my friend?
Man, I am so happy to be here. I almost didn't get to make the show with you tonight. I had big plans for a celebrity fishing trip. I'll talk about that later. So, you planned the show, but here's what's happening. We're going to do some fish in the news. You're bringing back a segment for Lure Love. We're going to talk about Zman Baits. Anna on Ice joining us this week. And
right.
We're going to talk about a big event in November called National Podcast Posting Month, NAPOD POMO. We'll talk about that in this show. And you know what, John? Other things are going to happen too, but we just don't know what they are.
We never know.
We never know. Yeah, but I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you're here, John, carrying the Fish Nerds torch, keeping me going every week. Appreciate you.
Well, you're not as glad as I am. I'm sure as heck glad to be here. We've been going through a lot, and the fact that I'm still standing and able to do this right now is no small miracle.
No small miracle, yeah. But we have a lot of kind of fun stuff to look forward to with the podcast. We're going to have some interesting guests coming on in the future. John, I am going to be fishing with a TV legend.
Oh, yeah? Well, let's hear about this TV legend.
All right. So some listeners, especially if they're children of the 70s, 80s, and 90s TV, will know exactly who this person is. John Davidson is the guy's name. And you know John.
I do know John. I used to watch the Carol Burnett show and love American Style and Johnny Carson and all this. Oh, yeah, he's a 70s TV fixture. I mean, total legend.
Total legend. He has the record for the most times ever as a guest on The Tonight Show. He was, as a kid, I knew him from the TV show That's Incredible and Hollywood Squares. And he, and he lives up here in New Hampshire in a town called Sandwich, which is just about half an hour from me. And he owns a club there called Club Sandwich. And he puts on a one-man show there twice a week. It's in a barn with 45 love seats in it. It is the best 90 minutes of entertainment I've ever had. It's so good.
That sounds awesome.
It's so good. So anyway, he's coming on my boat next week, a week from today. We were supposed to go tonight, but it's raining, to go trout and salmon fishing. On the boat with me will be George Cleveland, who is the grandson of Grover Cleveland, the former president, who grew up in Tamworth, New Hampshire, just one town over from me. And then joined by him will be a guy named Kimball Packard, who in the 80s was a huge rock music promoter, so knew all the big bands in the 80s and stuff. So we have these kind of like guys who know things and storytellers on my boat who want to go salmon fishing with me. So it's going to be interesting. And I even invited Rich Collins.
Oh, all right.
We haven't heard from him in a long time in the podcast. It'd be good to get his voice on there as well. So,
well, it'd be great to hear Rich on the pod. And yeah, you got to mix in some character in there, a little bit of spice into the mix there to keep it unpredictable.
Yeah, and who knows what I'll get. I'll be bringing my recording stuff. It could be a dud or it could be gold. I'm hoping for some gold. And John Davidson is no joke as a entertainer, so it should be really good.
I'm already looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So let's hope, what I think we're going to get is a big haystack of stuff, and you're going to pull out some really tasty bits for us.
Well, with any luck, I'll have a lot that I can pull out and put over a series of episodes, so it doesn't have to be like the John Davidson day. It can be just a little, here's another taste,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We'll see what we get. We don't know until we get it. That's the thing about field recording is you don't know. I'm not planning anything. I'm going to just record stuff. So, and if we catch fish, even better. All right.
Even better.
All right. How you been, John?
Busy and going nuts and lots of personal stuff here and there, but mostly just busy with Glasswater and keeping my place livable around here with outdoor chores. We are finally out of the heat wave days, but we still aren't getting any rain, which leaves me having to water. And anyway, it's nice to have it not just be 105 degrees, but the fact that we like got all worked up for a storm. We had our first. We'll talk about climate change. This is Kansas. We had which is like thunderstorm land, and we didn't have a thunderstorm this summer until 2 days ago. With only 4 days of summer left to go, we finally had a little thunderstorm that dropped about 1/10 of an inch of rain, and that was it.
Wow. Well, we got 2 inches of rain today, John. There are 2 to come in tomorrow, and we've had in here in New Hampshire the most rain we've ever had. So,
that's just it. And we all say the same thing. I wish you could share. I wish you could put it in a bottle and send it to me. I mean, but
I can send you a bottle, but it wouldn't be enough. All right, John, why don't we get into the news? What do you think?
I love fish in the news.
Blue button. Nope, red. Yeah, orange button. It's orange.
Fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
All right, I'm going to lead with a kind of a terrifying story, John. And all I really have is a headline here for you. It's a woman loses all 4 limbs after eating undercooked fish. And that's a nightmare. Yeah. It's a bizarre but true story reported by Klondike 5 out in Washington State. KL5 is the station. But it really happened. And what happened was this woman cooked tilapia. And it wasn't cooked well. She undercooked it, and she got a bacterial infection. And it wasn't flesh-eating virus. They didn't call it that in the story. There's no words in the story. It's a video I had to watch, so I had to kind of decipher what they were talking about. But she ate this thing, and then she got really sick. Go ahead.
I'm sorry I didn't interrupt, but I came on the same story, and I was worried that you'd have this story. Yeah. Figured you'd probably end up putting it on the news at the radio station. So
not the tilapia.
There's like 20 different outlets that have this.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. There's I got this one's the Independent. We like the Independent quite a bit, but still, it's just the same stuff over and over again. 40-year-old woman in California recently developed a bacterial infection and had to have all her limbs amputated.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Oh, it's a nightmare. And this poor lady, her name is Laura Baroff.
Yes, that's
and she was hospitalized over a month over this fish that she bought.
Yeah, terrible. And they don't fish or something on the fish or
Vibrio.
Go ahead, Vibrio what?
Yeah, maybe the water the fish was in that was still left bacteria on the outside. Well, the name of we got to get nerdy, bro. We got to get nerdy. The name of the bacteria was Vibrio vulnificus.
Yes.
Vibrio vulnificus.
There it is. You said it.
Okay.
You win.
Sounds scary.
Settle down. Settle down.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, on September 1st, they released a health advisory warning the public about Vibrio infections that are associated with warm coastal waters. These infections are commonly fatal. About 20% of people who develop them die. Sometimes within a couple of days. They almost always need intensive care and amputation, or to have dead tissue removed. Other people just get sick as hell and manage to pull through it. It's but 1 in 5 develops enormous complications. There's a couple hundred cases of this a year, so it's real, and you got to be very careful about it. And then they go into a bunch of things. Make sure you cook your oysters for this much time, 375 degrees, boiled for 3 minutes, or baked in 450 for 10 minutes. Anyway, they've got all kinds of guidelines so that you won't run afoul of this. But the main thing is, yes, the trendy, leave the fish rare or not al dente, but what am I trying to say? You know how you leave tuna
medium rare,
little pink streak, medium in there, a little salmon with that. Well, fish caught from certain waters that you're not at risk level, but when you get these warmer water fish, and any fish I'd buy at a market, I would cook the living heck out of it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I kind of do. I don't want to dry them out. There's a balance. You got to cook them well enough.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like with salmonella or something. I mean, salmonella can just blow your kidneys right out your back, but you can avoid it, even though it's rather common. You can avoid it just by using good kitchen sanitation and cooking food to a proper temperature. So,
well, they're saying you can get this bacteria that this woman had even from swimming. You got like a fresh tattoo or open wound, you can still catch that bacteria.
Exactly. And that fresh tattoo of John Davidson you're planning on getting, maybe don't go swimming for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a John Davidson tattoo on my face. Only I'll have better hair once I get that. He's got great hair. So,
yes, he's always had great hair.
Yeah, so good.
I not a blessing that's shared over here, but that's all right. Somebody's got to be handsome and talented, and then there's the rest of us.
There's the rest of us. So anyway, it's incredibly scary news that you can die from eating undercooked tilapia. Which, by the way, John, if you had to, let's say you were going to die from eating a fish, but you had to eat the fish, right? So no matter what, or no, let's say you had to get. I'm going to put a scenario, okay? I'm going to tell you that you have to eat a fish, and that fish is going to cause you to have all 4 of your limbs amputated. You have no choice. You have to eat the fish. Would you choose tilapia?
And wait, the scenario is I have to eat some sort of fish?
Yeah, and no matter what one you eat, it's going to result in losing all 4 of your limbs. So, but you still have to eat a fish.
Clay.
Which fish do you choose?
What kind of movies do you watch, bro?
I'm just saying, you got to make a choice. But listen, it's not going to be tilapia.
It's such a it wouldn't be tilapia, that's for sure. I mean, it's such a small plus side on that. Well, I'm gonna lose all my limbs, but at least I get to eat a nice rare piece of yellowtail.
Is that your choice?
It'd be something super fancy like yellowtail, or it would just be some good fried crappie.
Yeah, fried crappie's good. I'd go for a big giant seafood boil. Right, that takes a long time to eat, so I can prolong the losing my limbs as long as I can. So
I thought you said it was inevitable no matter what I did.
But it's not until you're done eating. So
I see.
You get to eat that meal first.
Yeah. So we'll just set the whole stock pot full of seafood boil down in front of you and see how long you last.
Could take days. John.
Take days. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So another one, and this came up on my local News 9 up here in New Hampshire, but it actually happened. It happened. Well, let me get into it. An angelfish got a CT scan. That's the story. It happened from the Denver Zoo, right? An angelfish that was found one day had a funny float. Buoyancy was all crazy, but it got out of the zoo and had to get a CT scan, which is kind of crazy that there. It was noticed by a zookeeper who noticed it swimming kind of crazy. And it took place in a machine big enough to fit a 700-pound grizzly bear. So it really took a lot of work to get that little tiny angelfish into the CT scan. And they had to ask him, do you have any piercings? Like looking for fish hooks and stuff. He's only 7 inches tall. They had to sedate him. And do you know how they sedate a fish?
I wouldn't dare to venture a guess. I have a lot of ideas on maybe, but no, I don't know how they sedate a fish.
I don't know how they do this one, but we used to do fish sampling. We would sedate the fish, and we would take Alka-Seltzer tablets and put them in the water, and put the fish in the water with the Alka-Seltzer, and that carbon dioxide would put the fish to sleep so you could handle it. And then you drop it into highly oxidized water later, and it comes back to life and it's fine. Wow, that's how we did it. But who knows how they did it? But they had to take the 7-inch fish, and they had to get a sponge that kind of bent it like a taco shell. And then people had to pour water over its gills so to keep it alive while they did the CT scan. All this for a little 7-inch angelfish. They must really like this fish. But if you Google this, you can see these images of the fish, and they're spectacular.
Yes.
They look almost pretend. But you can see the fish and all his nice looking bones. You can see all its guts and stuff in the CT scan. And the diagnosis, guess what?
What?
Gas.
It's gas.
It just had to fart. Yeah, I just had to fart.
That's it.
Yeah, it had, the diagnosis was, in fact, too much gas. Enteritis, or inflamed intestines, had resulted in increased internal gas that was affecting the fish's buoyancy. So they gave it some antibiotics. The fish farted, and it's just fine now. That's actually true. That's the truth.
Well,
Just
the
had
bad
gas.
thing about the bad thing about this story is I can totally identify with that fish. I mean, I swear I've never had to have a CT scan over it, but
Not over your gas.
we all know a good release every now and then can just set you right back on your feet.
John,
nice and
John
steady.
you're walking a little funny there. Let's get you a CT scan. I'm going to sit you in a sponge and pour some water in your gills, and we're going to check you out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But good news for that Denver Zoo angelfish.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You know, it's funny. Catching a fish causes a lot of stress. You'd think
Yes.
putting it in a CT scan would have the same problem.
Well, clearly they were doing all they could. I think anybody's going to have a CT scan is going to be under stress, and they were doing all they could to
Minimize.
keep it alive, keep it out, relieve it of the stress and so forth. But hey, they wanted to find out what was going on, and it's crazy that it was something simple. But you never know.
Yeah, and I do want to sidebar now, John, into a different part of the news world, which is the TikTok world. I don't have a TikTok sounder or anything, but this is news to me that there are TikTok challenges with fishing, which I kind of fun to watch. And I found a TikTok challenge that was the stupidest one I've ever found. And it's a TikTok Walmart fishing challenge. And I'm going to give you the premise, and you can tell me what's wrong with it. So if you go on the TikToks, you can watch these kids. They look like a bunch of, they're like 20-year-olds, bunch of rich, white 20-year-olds going into Walmart, and they're going, we're doing the Walmart fishing challenge, and we're going to see if we can catch any fish and only spend $25. That's the challenge. And what's wrong with the challenge?
Too easy.
Yeah, $25
At Walmart.
You can buy whatever you want. Like
right.
Like there's
I mean, do they have to buy a pole and everything, or just
no,
lure?
just terminal tackle.
Oh man.
I'm like, there's no. Where's the challenge? Like if it was
Yeah,
like a $6 challenge, a $4 challenge, or like. But to me,
Well, you got to go into Walmart, but you can only go into housewares.
Oh, even better. Yeah, you must buy a spoon.
Yeah, you got to buy a real spoon or
just
roll of tinfoil.
I love that. Or just into the arts and crafts section.
Exactly.
I like that. That's a real challenge. But these kids are choosing the easy one, and their videos are getting millions of views, and lots of people go, "Wow, that's amazing." I'm like, "No, it's not." I do the Walmart challenge every time I go in there. If that's true, like, can I please spend less than $25? It's always the goal. But anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest, John. It was bothering me. I wanted to say it out loud, use my platform, and say it.
You got your platform now. We can give a big collective sigh of relief. Here we go.
All right, that's Fish in the News.
All right.
Fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
Hey, man, guess who I ran into the other day?
Stephen King.
Wasn't Stephen King.
Barack Obama.
No, getting closer, though.
Kathy King.
Oh, I run into her every day on the way to the bathroom. Tim, Tackle Box Beat, and guess what?
He's not dead.
He is not dead.
Wow.
He is alive and well and doing his thing, but he took some time out from his busy schedule because he and I both love Zman Baits, and Zman brought out micro finesse baits earlier this year.
Really?
And yeah, finally covering the
Ooh.
pan fishers. They finally gave us some baits, and here we got for you a little review of these baits.
Lure love, I can't get enough. Got a space in my tackle box, just got to fill it up. Lure love, I can't ever stop. Don't got a basement, got an underground tackle shop.
All right, I am so excited to have in the studio tonight my good buddy, my former podcast pod bro, Tim, Tacklebox Beat. And what are we going to talk about tonight, Tim?
Well, John, remember when Z-Man sent us those Elastec soft baits, and we just went crazy for them because the things are super stretchy, they're durable, and we love testing them. But we kept saying, when are you going to come out with panfish baits? Because you and I were actually taking our fly scissors and cutting these things up, trying to make panfish baits. Well, what we're going to talk about is Z-Man came out with a bunch of micro finesse soft baits, and they are amazing.
They are absolutely amazing. There's a couple, I don't know, I have some small critiques, but I'll tell you, they are fantastic baits, and I had enormous success with them the spring and all summer long.
Yeah, they're great. It's kind of like that Rick Moranis movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, except with soft baits, which makes it a much better plot because who cares if the shrunken kids get back in the house? I care about whether I get a monster panfish in my net. And these are the things.
They really are. There are some great designs. And of course, yeah, there's some downsized from the big baits. And you know, one thing you didn't mention about Z-Man being that elastomer, that silicone-based plastic, they float. So you just get a great fall out of these baits. I only got to try a couple because unfortunately Z-Man hasn't caught up with me yet or has forgotten me, or I don't really know what's going on, but I actually had to buy these, but that's okay. It's worth every penny. I bought the Stinger Z and the Shad Fry Z, both good looking bait.
Yeah, these are really great. And what's interesting, John, is most of these are their larger baits, and they just created miniature versions of them. So they have the mini TRD, and these are all between like 1 3/4 and 2 inches long. There's a mini Tickler Z, which is like a TRD with 4 legs on it. There's a mini Stinger Z, 10 different colors for most of them, including Purple Death, Napalm, Electric Chicken, and Space Guppy.
Space Guppy!
And as you said,
Truce, man.
it's only $5 for an 8-pack. But the thing that I'm amazed at is just like the bigger ones, these things last forever. I have fished for an entire day with one bait on there. And so you fish with plastisol baits, and a lot of times the fish either bite them in half or they pull them right off. But these things just really stay on your jig head.
Oh, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. And I like to use, you know me, I like to use a no collar jig. So I just take a little dab of glue and keep them in place that way. But you put them on anything with a keeper and they are going to just stay there and stay there and stay there.
Yeah, and one of the things, I don't like these because they're not lead free, but they have that welded on keeper hook. It's a little barb that comes in, and between the elastic and that, when you get one of these things on, you cannot pull it off. It's almost like doing super glue with a regular jig. And they're not too bad. Their jigs are size 4 and 6 hooks, which I don't mind too much. I mean, it's a little bit big for some, depending on the size of the panfish that you're catching. But they do have them in sizes from a 10th ounce to a 30th ounce, and that's dynamite for me. I mean, when you're dealing with that small and you put one on, they really suspend. I mean, these things really sink very, very slowly, which you and I both like. It's if the fish are suspended, this is just going to sit right in the middle of them.
Exactly. I mean, I think their keeper system is better than the glue. I mean, it lasts long. I mean, you literally, you cannot get it off there very easily at all. The panfish cannot pull it off of theirs with the keeper. I'm using 64th ounce, 32nd ounce, casting it with a real light braid or a real light mono. The descent is so slow and so sexy. I mean, really, I'm not telling stories. I literally, the first time I put on that Stinger Z, I went 30 fish, nice bluegills. I mean, 30 fish and 30 casts. I mean, either I got a hit or a hookup. I went a long ways with getting a strike on every cast, literally. I mean, I know you hear a lot of that, but this is no lie. I mean, it's the way it was.
Yeah, they have great action. And part of that's because the tails of some of these baits are super thin. If they were plastisol, you would lose it every bite. And now and then you get one of these nipped off, but because they stretch so much, if a panfish just takes that tail, just the end of the tail, and you set the hook, most of the time it doesn't break. Now and then it does, but with some of these, you don't see, there's not many teeth marks or anything in them. And I'm fishing ultralight like you are, John. I'm using a St. Croix light rod with an ultralight Fluger President reel. And this year, I started to use 6-pound braid with no leader, cast like a dream. It's beautiful. Matter of fact, I have actually fished these with a very small hook and no jig head, and it's a topwater bait. It's a soft topwater bait, and I tell you what, the bass go crazy. If you take a small hook and you just nose hook, like a small mosquito hook right through the front of it, it's beautiful. It's almost like fly fishing.
It got me wondering right there. You reading my mind. I'm like, well, maybe I just throw one out on my fly rod then, because you've been up to those tricks before with their bigger baits. So I'm not surprised that you decided to run one on the surface. But I'll tell you, yeah, that's my only complaint with these two. I mean, the Stinger Z has a little tiny thin tail, and it's got a little ball in that tail to keep it floating and in line with the rest of the bait. You might lose that tail. I lost one like 5 fish in, a dozen fish in. But I said in the last episode, I don't think I've ever retired a Z-Man bait completely.
And John, what about when you're fishing it with that thin tail? What about the action on that tail? Is that crazy?
Oh, it's insane. That's probably why it's more painful when you lose it, because you just love the action on that tail. And it is, like you say, if it was plastic, it'd be gone on the first fish. It would just be gone. I mean, this is a thin tail, folks. Both on the shad fry. The shad fry has a little micro paddle on it. It gives it a super tight little action. It is so cool. And then the Stinger has a nice drifting, just kind of side to side. It's just beautiful because when you look at the profile on the Stinger Z, you think it's kind of like a flat, like a pumpkin seed or something like that. But when you see it in your hand, no, they're chubby little baits. They got little eyes on them and the whole bit. And it's that chubby factor. We're going to call it the chubby factor that makes it just drop so incredibly slow when you're on a 1/64th, 1/32nd type situation. The fish go absolutely bonkers. I can't wait to basically try them all, because you sent me a link to a couple new ones that they've come out with. One is called the Baby Baller Z, which is kind of like, well, I think it's like what they call a Jake or just a ballsy but it's a little minnow shape with the little knob on the end of the tail. Classic design. Tail's a little thicker. But the one that's really got me just completely buzzed is the micro goat, because the Z-Man goat is right after the Slim Swim is my favorite design from them. And to have a tiny one like that, that's just out of sight.
Yeah, they really are incredible. I can't wait to fish those two. And what do you think, John? I think these are going to revolutionize ice fishing, because they don't get stiff. They have such subtle action to them. I think these are going to be some of the best ice fishing baits around.
I think you're absolutely right. They are going to be one of the best ice fishing baits around. And because they are so responsive, the cold water is not going to slow them down. And
yeah. The other thing I found is I fished the TRD a lot, and they have one in smelt. It's a great color. And normally, people, you're hopping a TRD along the bottom. Well, in the rivers, I swim it, and it has no tail to it. But with that smelt color, it just looks like a little tiny bait fish. It's only a couple inches long, but it is just a killer. So you can swim it because it's so buoyant. When you bring it in, it has good action to it, but then it goes to the bottom and then the tail sticks up. So these are just very versatile baits. And I have caught a lot of small fish on them, panfish. I've also hooked into some very aggressive, large bass that just think these things are beautiful to eat. So it's kind of an all around bait. If you're fishing small creeks, you got to get these. This is great for small creek fishing.
Oh yeah, they gotta be. In fact, I was going to, I'm the one caught some small bass on them, but you caught a couple of honkers. I mean, you had one like 3-4 pounds that took you for a ride on your ultralight fishing the TRD.
They really kind of get this because the shape of these baits is also something you're not going to see in plastisol. There's not a Baller Z out there because they're really using the elastic material to do things you can't in plastisol. So like the Shad Fry Z, it has a little tail on it, but it is those grooves to make that tail as flexible as possible. If that was plastisol, you'd have one bite and that would be gone. But like you said, you may go 15 fish before that gets pulled off, if it does at all. And things like the TRD, it's thick enough. There's no chance a fish is going to bite that in half. I mean, because you can stretch the thing probably 12 inches without it breaking.
If it does get bit off, it still works really well. And I've got 3 or 4 of them sitting here on the bench because I intend to take a little bit of marabou, a little bit of crystal, maybe a little bit of flash boost, something. So I'm going to add back a tail to these, but I fish them without the tail. They're still great. And yeah, that articulation on the Shad Fry Z. Well, listen, we're just going on and on and on. Folks, get yourself some of these Z-Man micro finesse baits. They're a whole lot of fun. You're going to enjoy them on the soft water. You're going to enjoy them on the hard water. They are great for bluegill, great for crappie, great, I'm sure, for yellow perch. I can't wait to get up and try them on that. Get some. We like our Z-Man, and we like them for a reason. Yeah. And these are, I will give 5 out of 5 on most of them, and maybe a 4.9 on the Stinger. If they would just take it up just maybe a millimeter or so on that tail. But Hey, Z-Man, I just gotta at least give the appearance of fairness, but
Yeah.
I still haven't I still haven't retired a Z-Man bait because I keep the ones I keep them around anyway because I'll just keep fishing the shad fry. I'll just keep fishing the stinger, and I intend to pull some of Jimmy Lee's tricks and pull some feathers through it or tie some feathers on it or something, and or some sort of other material, and use that body, that floating body that just I get that slow descent. I will be catching 100 fish a bait, no problem.
And if listeners aren't familiar with Z-Man and Elastic, if you're someone like Todd Carrere, where you're doing saltwater, they have a 7-inch swim bait that is just a monster, and it's beautiful, the action that has with it. So they have some saltwater baits too. So they have all sizes, from these micro finesse baits right up to saltwater baits and everything in between.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Z-Man. You did it. You finally
send us more samples.
Send us
more samples.
Yeah, that's right. Send us more samples because we're a couple of panfish freaks, and we are glad you've reached out to this customer profile because we've been waiting for it, and we sure appreciate you coming out with them because, as usual, your designs are out of this world, and we can't get enough. All right. Well, listen, that's our report on Z-Man. Anything else you want to tell the crowd? What's going on with the tackle or anything cool going on in your life as far as making some good picks, some good finds?
Yeah, I have bought two old baits I'll talk to you about. One of them is made by the Reynolds Company, the aluminum foil company, and it's an all aluminum jig. And this is probably from, I think, maybe like the 50s or 60s. Pretty cool. And then I also just bought a war bug, which is a jitterbug from World War II with a plastic lip, because they were using all the metal for the war effort, so they couldn't use it for jitterbugs. So during that time, you can buy some that have a plastic lip that didn't hold up, but they're kind of a collector's item and reminiscent of those war times.
Wow, that is a great find. I saw it on the Fish Nerds Facebook group. Great condition. And yeah, one of the things that makes them such a collector's treasure is the fact that a lot of them, the lip cracked or broke off, and people got rid of them. So to find one in that great a shape, and I love the finish on that one, that kind of sunburst, gorgeous bait.
Yeah, really beautiful.
All right, this has been John Crappie Hippie King and Tim Tacklebox Beat with a report on Z-Man lures and some looks into Tim's latest vintage pickings. We'll have to do this again sometime and soon, my man.
All right, thanks, John.
Lure love, you've been on my mind. Never enough lures to tie to the end of my line. Lure love, can't I make you see?
All right, so what do you think of that? Are you going to go out and get you some of these?
I am going to get me some because, John, I love microplastics. Nothing makes me happier than microplastics in every body of water we have. I like it in my drinking water. I'm just kidding.
Yo, I see. Yeah.
No, but fishing with small plastics for panfish, and I'm going to trap them through the ice for early season brook trout as we get in ice fishing season. So I love it.
Well, I'm a natural materials hardcore. I still, in spite of my love of Z-Man and all that, I still 90% of the time I'm going to be using a feather jig or a hair jig or something like that. But there's just so much to love about these little baits, and I really am, placing Z-Man at the top of my list because it seems the most environmentally friendly. Between them and the Berkeley Gulp and Gulp Alive series, these are companies that are trying to, get plastics to be less of a footprint in the environment. Mm-hmm. But it is no lie. I took these out, and just especially spring when the bluegill were on the bed and the crappie were out cruising around and picking off bluegill fry and stuff. I just had a ball with them. And like I say, even the ones that got the tail snipped off, they do not go in the trash around here because, first of all, they work anyway. And second of all, it gives me a chance to diddle around and see if I can't fix them up a little bit with my vise and my thread and all my tinsel and feathers and good stuff. So it'll make myself a hybrid bait out of them is what I'm saying.
That's perfect. Now, this is kind of a side question, because I emailed Z-Man years ago when they first dropped out, when the Ned series became really popular. And I asked them if they were going to come out with lead-free Ned heads. And they were like very quick to say, oh, nope, not doing that. Have they come around on the lead issue?
No, they have not. They have not. They were just as quick to say, we're not exploring that. And so, we'll see. We'll see. But I understand lead free right now. We're pushing up. I mean, when I first started coming on the show in 16, we were only 2% of the market. Now we're 5 and change, pushing on up. So it's going to keep growing, especially. Did you these lawsuits?
Yeah.
They just sued the living hell out of the paint people for having lead paint and knowing how dangerous it was to kids and selling it anyway. And California just took $350 million out of their butts for selling it there. And if, soon somebody's going to turn around and sue Water Gremlin or somebody. And
what's going to happen is some state's going to look at all the loons or whatever animals are dying, and that's clear. There's a clear path to the lead fishing industry, and then sue them. And I'm not saying they should. I think the company should do it voluntarily. I'd much rather have voluntary people do the right thing instead of regulation do it. But I'll take either one. But I like Z-Man, but I wish they would get on board with that. I want to put a little pressure on them to get in the game, in the lead-free game, because they can do well with it.
I think the time will come, and I think it's going to come faster than you think. That's all I'm saying is the lead awareness. Environmental awareness, we've got a lot of pushing and shoving, and when that in the world right now politically, and so it heightens people's awareness. They kind of are sympathetic about environmental issues, but now it's really with climate change and the fact that we have no pure water left basically on Earth anymore, except for some very rare environments. It does not have microplastics or something else, or mercury or both or whatever. We're hitting we're hitting a point of no return, a point of how much of the stuff you're willing to put up with. And so I anticipate the lead free market to grow, and I think when Z-Man can see that it's a good investment, and maybe if they can come across a guy or a person that is good at handling lead free materials and can tell them how to source lead free materials that make sense in their business plan and in their profit picture, then they'll be glad to change. But right now, in a pure analysis, it's probably not, in a strict cold business way, it's just not a good decision for them. But
not yet.
I'm working to make it a good decision for them here someday.
All right, well, good. Thank you, John. And I don't want to beat up on Z-Man. Lots of companies need to get on board.
No,
with
they're
they're fine. So
I mean, they, like I said, the actual plastics. On the other hand, one thing about Z-Man, they're perfectly transparent. When we said, hey, they're biodegradable, right? They're like, no, it's not really, biodegradable. They do degrade, but he goes, our main thing is that we last 10 to 20 times longer, so you're going to be putting less crap in the water. And so they don't inflate their contribution, but they don't back off it. They're just pretty upfront bunch of folks. So pretty cool.
Well, thank you, Z-Man.
All right,
moving forward, John. Moving
on.
The train's going. What's next?
Well, you remember back in 2020. Right as the pandemic was getting rolling, I had
the good old days, John.
The good old days when we used to have our little Zoom parties and all that stuff. I tried to have that feature called Local Legends, and you were pushing to get more diversity on the show, and I'd been following this person on Instagram, and I reached out to her. She's an ice fisher of immense talent and just a wonderful person. Anyway, I was just learning to be a correspondent, so when I interviewed her, she said, great, I want to be on the show. And when I interviewed her, I turned in almost an hour and a half worth of material, and we had to spread it over 3 shows. So we ended up spreading about 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and then a big one like 40 minutes. Anyway, Anna on Ice is her name. Anna Lessison is who she was then, and she's gone through some changes, and I just had to get back with her. We needed to catch up with Anna, don't you think?
I think so. Find out what she's been up to.
Exactly. And she's been up to a lot, young man. So sit tight, everybody, and listen to this wonderful conversation that I had with friend of the pod, Anna on Ice. Hello, Fish Nerd Nation. I am so excited because today in Glasswater Angling Studios, I have a young lady who was actually on the show early in 2020. She is someone I met through Instagram. I had seen this woman posting these great fishing pictures, mostly ice fishing pictures, some extreme ice fishing pictures. And I thought, my goodness, now Clay wants me to get more women on the pod. This was early in my correspondent days, and I wanted to do what the boss wanted me to do. So I reached out to this person, and we did this this big, huge interview. We had to split it into 3 parts. We had so much darn fun, but we had a lot of fun getting her on the show early in 2020. She is an ice fishing authority. She has also been involved with outdoor television, and she is a gear model for DSG outerwear designed by women for women. Now, when I first met her, she was on a Lechishin, but now she's on a Brady. Please join me as we catch up with Anna on ice.
Yeah, we've got kind of a history. We've kind of got a history roll. And I was going to say, you said 2020. I was going to say you were probably one of my very first followers ever, John.
Yeah, well, I was amongst your earlies, that's for sure. And then I went over to research you, and that's how I got to know Angie Scott. And basically, all kinds of good things came out of it. But we sure had a lot of fun putting that together because it was a gigantic interview that I had to split over 3 episodes.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
It was great. So, all right. So first thing I'm going to do here is play a little bit from 2020. I was talking to Anna about her plans for the future in terms of matrimony, and here's what she had to say. What about family goals? Family goals. What does that look like?
I feel like I got a lot of time left, so I'm just going to keep doing me. I'm just going to keep, fishing my life away. And if I decide to settle down with a guy that can keep up with me, then then that might be in the cards. But like I said, I'm sure having a family one day and kind of laying some roots here in Minnesota are definitely in my cards in the future. But boy, I got a lot of fishing I want to get done before then. So,
all right, Anna. Well, from looking at your Instagram feed, I see that you finally found a guy that could keep up with you.
Yeah, I would say probably not even a month after that call. You must have manifested it into fruition there, John. So yeah, no, I'm happily married to my husband Ben. I actually funny enough, I've known Ben since the 3rd grade. I actually ended up marrying my best friend's brother.
Oh my goodness, that is sweet. I tell you, I am just crazy about this kind of stuff. I mean, it's love to hear stories about how people got together and all that.
Yes, we're actually in over ice fishing. Funny enough, we joke that we always kind of fancied each other, but to me he was always off limits. He was my best friend's brother, so I never really neither one of us ever really kind of made a move. But we used to go on an ice fishing trip. So his sister, my best friend's name is Lauren, and her husband, the 4 of us would do an ice fishing trip every year. And in 2020, that same trip, that January, Lauren and Andrew's dog was with them and got sick, like super sick. He's fine now, but they had to drive him to an emergency vet. So it was just Ben and I, and that actually opened the opportunity for us to build onto an actual relationship together. So here we are now in 2023, and we're married, and we have a beautiful 8-month-old boy.
Well, I'll be darned. I'll tell you what. Thank you, dog, for your timely illness. I'm glad you recovered completely, but it all worked out in the ripples of life that gave Anna and Ben some one-on-one time in a very relaxed, very fun atmosphere called fishing, which is a great place to make a buddy and apparently a great place to meet a life partner as well. That's fantastic. I love that story.
Yes, we often say to their dog Knox, we're always like, "Hey Knox, we appreciate that, you took one for the team and you got sick and you had to leave it." It was what was actually even cooler and pretty special. The place where we actually got married was on the very same lake. The venue is on the lake that we were fishing. So a year and a half later, we got married in the same spot. So it was pretty full circle.
Oh my goodness, that is so fun. I tell you, I just can't stand it when it goes so great and goes so right and things all fall together like that. What a romantic way to tie the knot and to come back to where the spark happened in the first place. Fantastic. Okay. Now, speaking of Freddie,
Yes.
cutest little fella I ever did see. I'm telling you, here's a little thing you had to say about, or I had to say, I think I was kind of teasing you about, well, once you got married, did you plan on starting a family? And this is what we were talking about back then. I just keep having this strange mental picture of you going into labor on the ice. Nicole's screaming, "Come on, Anna, come on." And you're like, fish on flasher.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can't leave
I'm hooked
yet.
up. I'm not going anywhere.
Just have the baby on the ice. So
Yeah,
that'll go well.
the views, it would go viral for sure. Exactly.
Oh, too funny.
Okay, so unless you decided to keep it some sort of secret and just not put it on Instagram, you did manage to have your child not on the ice while fishing. You did manage to get to proper facilities and give birth in a more stable, controlled environment, correct?
Yes, surprisingly. And he was born at the very end of December. So I would have had the opportunity, to have him on the ice, but no, we played the safe route, and no, I did have him at the hospital, and
Well,
he has yet to be on the ice, but that will change very soon here with winter on the corner. So I'm excited to get him out here on the ice out here in Idaho. So
well, it's going to be great because I can just see that sweet little head peeping up out of your DSG wear as you jig for some of those gigantic yellow perch that you've been catching.
yes.
Now, it's kind of funny to me that both you and your good buddy Nicole, who is one of your top fishing buddies,
Yes.
both decided to cross the parental line right around the same time.
Indeed. Yes, we did. Yes, it was and she didn't tell people for a while, well, neither one of us did, but she had her daughter in the middle of October, and we had Freddie at the end of December. So now we joke, it's like, oh well, they're right around the same age. One day maybe we can set them up. It would be a dream come true for Nicole and I.
Well, that would just be fabulous if they could become fishing buddies and go out and be friends and all that. And I think there's a good chance of that happening. I really, really do. Okay, so big changes. We talked a lot when I talked to you in 2020. We talked a lot about your career ambitions and your ideas and, where were you going long run, planning on staying with this fishing, planning on having a career in fishing. Tell us how things have changed or how you've modified your vision or how you've added to it or however you want to express it. But talk about what you're doing now and what you plan to be doing in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was fun to listen back on our previous conversation, and I'm really thankful that I got to take those few years and really just immerse myself in the fishing world and industry, particularly ice fishing from a career standpoint. It was fabulous. And then, as big changes. That's an understatement. So, I think even in our previous podcast, I was talking about, wanting to, lay roots in Minnesota. But my husband, Ben's job actually brought us out had a great opportunity in Idaho. So we are in the Boise metro, and, that kind of presented some challenges with my career, but it was ultimately a blessing in disguise, because I'll be honest with you, anybody who's full-time, and Nicole would attest to this if she was on here, but if you are full-time in that industry, it's a grind. I learned really quickly there's no such thing as kind of separating your professional and personal life. It was you're full-time all the time, and there was a lot of travel involved, which I really enjoyed. For those years that, I was able to do it, and before we moved and everything. And it was definitely a grind, but it was something an opportunity I was really thankful for. But going back to just kind of having a 9 to 5 and splitting fishing as my passion versus my profession, you ask anybody who turns their passion into profession, and there's kind of a fine line you dance on where something that you love becomes a job. So
hey, you're preaching to the choir right here.
Yeah. You might know a thing or two about that. So yeah, so I found I have a great 9 to 5 job that has a ton of flexibility. I work from home, and I'm really in charge of my own schedule. So I work in marketing, so it's great because I kind of get to still dabble in a lot of what I learned from working in the industry, but I can now have kind of that separation that I really almost forgot about in those years that I was immersed in, the fishing world career. So I'm thankful because it's like, oh, I get to enjoy fishing for fishing again. And I get to do the fun stuff where I get to do, I get to do the social media aspect, which you and I, bond over quite a bit. So it's really panned out to be exactly where I want it to be. And, now that I'm not 9 months pregnant and, about to give birth in the middle of my favorite season, I'm literally looking forward to, to this upcoming ice season. I've got some really fun trips planned, and yeah, it's been great exploring that in a whole entirely new state on top of it.
Well, yeah, we'll get into some comparisons between your old home and your new home, but I'm really am excited for you because you start a family and your priorities have to change. And
Absolutely.
It's great that you can tailor a situation to help you do both things to the max, as we used to say back in the 70s, to the max. And you can enjoy your fishing now. It kind of reminds me of my daughter. She's an artist, but she never wanted to be just a professional artist, all, depending on that for income and so forth. She'd rather have the freedom of ideas and the freedom of separation and keep her art kind of over there. And it's great that Freddie's going to have a mom that can hang out and a dad that can hang out and is not pressed to travel and is not pressed to make these hard decisions. So I'm really, 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 really happy for you. And glad to see you're making it work. That is fantastic.
Thank you, John. Yes, no, the balance is, like you said, it definitely, your priorities shift and you need that balance. You need to be able to kind of have your family life, your home life, and, not traveling like, a wild banshee like I was in the past was, that's a challenge, whether with or without, if you have a family, it's challenging. So I'm very grateful that, it's all worked out, and that I have a partner who values it just as much as I do, that we still get to pursue our passions while, growing a family together.
It's just wonderful. It's an amazing story. And I'm so glad you agreed to come on and talk to us about that and how it's all, coming together for you. I'm always glad to hear. We need good news, especially now. And you'll get back to that stuff that we talked about, the saltwater fishing. And actually, it's probably pretty good, your idea about going back to Ukraine for a while and doing some professional ice fishing there, or some competitive ice fishing there. Maybe it's a good thing that didn't happen.
Yeah. Given the current circumstances, it might be a little while for sure.
Yeah, I think that one's going to go on hold irregardless. So when you said you were moving to Idaho, I was like, well, it's cold up there. They got ice up there. I think she'll be all right. I don't think they got near as many lakes as Minnesota, though. So how's things going with your Idaho fishing versus Minnesota? What are your regrets about not being back in your old home? But what are the bonuses for being in your new home?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's pros and cons, of course, with any big move like that. But it was funny when Ben got the opportunity presented for his company to move us out here, right away, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, if, Boise was one of the options, and Lake Cascade, which is just about an hour north of the Boise metro area, has been on my bucket list since forever. Lake Cascade is home to the world record yellow perch. And if you've seen pictures of them, they're almost mutants.
They are. I'm glad you said it first, because I was just like, these are not normal yellow perch from this planet. Don't have wide experience with yellow perch. A few people are playing around stocking them in ponds in Kansas, but not many. And of course, I saw your Minnesota perch. I got to go yellow perch fishing with Clay and enjoy the heck out of that species. But these things are like red fins, in Europe or something. They are bananas big, just crazy big perch. I'm not surprised the world record's from there.
No, They are, yeah, so they had been on my list for a long time, just because anybody who's deep into the ice fishing world knows all about Lake Cascade perch. And so I was super excited by, the opportunity. So we ended up falling in love with the area. And it's just been such a fun last 2 winters getting to explore that body of water. It's got a super cool history behind how that population came to be. And yeah, we've gotten to catch a bunch of new species I caught my first pike minnow. Was not familiar with that species at all. Only heard about it a few times. I've got to pull several different species of trout through the ice, which has been super fun. Mountain whitefish existed in that lake. So it's just been really, really cool to explore that body of water. Very, mountain lakes are very different from what we're used to in the Midwest. Weather and snowpack plays a big role in fishing conditions. So unlike in the Midwest where, a lot of people have fish houses and permanents or skid shacks, that is not a thing out here. It's kind of almost impossible, because if you had anything kind of permanent or semi-permanent out there, you run the risk of it snowing 2 feet on top of you and you're never seeing, your shelter again, kind of a thing. So
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a wild ride getting to learn all about it. But there's lots of other bodies of water too that I've yet to even explore. I mean, like I said, we've only been out here for 2 winters, and one of those I had a brand new newborn. So this winter will be another super exciting exploration time for me. So I'm very excited that there's 2 other big lakes here that I'm just itching to get on some safe ice. So got to check some more species off my list.
Wow, it just sounds super fantastic. So those mountain lakes, they're awful deep compared to, say, glacial lakes, or rolling prairie lakes, glacial formed lakes in Minnesota. Pretty cool stuff. And I knew you'd be getting into the trout fishing out there. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's almost impossible not to. I mean, it's for sure. I mean, even just culturally from a fishing standpoint, it's so different out here. Trout is king in the West when it comes to just kind of the community around fishing. It's definitely, yeah. I mean, everybody just really, really is very attracted to the trout fishing out here. Obviously fly fishing is huge. So it's been really cool to kind of embark on all those new species, but also, get to catch them through the ice has been super cool. I mean, we've definitely caught some in the rivers and open water, but yeah, me.
I do know you.
Through the ice is ideal.
Yes, that is your jam. That is your way to get it done. I was going to ask you, if you've been tempted to pick up that old fly rod and try some of those streams in the open water season.
Yes. Yeah. We actually, I grew up doing a little bit of fly fishing. I was really young, because I grew up in Duluth, Minnesota. There's a lot of great fly fishing opportunities up the North and South Shore of Lake Superior. So, it's definitely not like riding a bike. You don't get to pick up where you left off. So I had a lot of learning curve to kind of reestablish, but both Ben and I last summer did a lot of camping, so we got to explore lots of new trout streams and rivers and lakes, and it's been really fun to kind of start cutting our teeth with fly fishing too.
Well, you got my envy. I read a lot of John Gierach, and he talks about going to Idaho for the great fly fishing, the famous rivers there, and to catch those native Western cutthroats. On my bucket list, and I don't like saying bucket list or using that popular term very much, but getting a cutthroat is something I really, really wanted to do. Have you got one yet?
I have not, and that's actually my first order of business, because one of the very first lakes to freeze, and maybe you're familiar with it, but it's called Henry's Lake. And that is one of the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the pre-spawning lake that connects to the Yellowstone River, where a whole bunch of the native cutthroats kind of originate. And it is one of the very first lakes in Idaho to freeze over. So anybody, who likes to ice fish out here, it's kind of a countdown. Some people in the past have even been on the ice and Henry's catching huge cutthroats as soon as Halloween. So that was a couple years ago. People were out there at the end of October catching cutthroats through the ice, which is just crazy. So you and me both, John. I'm very, very excited to catch that species.
Well, they are something gorgeous, and I'm glad to see the trend now is to protect them and to quit just stocking the non-native trout willy-nilly just because everybody everywhere wants everything. And I can understand that impulse to an extent. I know when I was young, I was like, you need to bring smallmouth to Kansas and you need to do this, you need to do that. And of course, I've gone a complete 180 on that. I want to see the cutthroat protected. I want to see Mississippi drainage protected, our species protected. We don't need to have everything everywhere all the time. And sounds like that's a pretty pure fishery, because if the cuts are getting that big, that must mean they're having the lion's share of the food. And I'm going to be there, girl, on Instagram to see you when you pull that first cutty through the ice. I'm going to be there.
You might get it. Maybe I'll send you a preview before I post it, so you can be in the exclusive club of seeing it first.
Oh, well, that would make me feel special, but so exciting, just so exciting. All righty. So I love your modeling for DSG outerwear, the outerwear for women, designed by women. You were still modeling that stuff when you were pregnant. It looked like it fit really nice, that you were very comfortable in it. You want to talk about DSG for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so cool to see just how back when so Nicole and I laugh about it, because back when we first started fishing together, even before we even knew each other, I mean, all we ever did was wear men's smalls, because there was no such thing as adequate ice fishing or outerwear for us ladies. I mean, nobody was making it. There was a couple brands that were dabbling in it, but basically they were just kind of taking cookie cutter sizes of men's stuff and just like shortening the sleeves or shortening the pant legs, and it was just never a good fit, so it was really cool to see brands like DSG kind of come to the table and be like, we want to make functional gear that's not just taking men's stuff and shrinking it and making it pink.
Right, right, exactly.
What they were doing, a lot of those brands were doing. So, it's been the brand has just exploded, and I think it's been almost like a double whammy. It's like if you build it, they'll come kind of a thing. It's like you have this right gear, and all of a sudden we've seen just this huge surge of popularity in girls getting out, enjoying the sport independently, not just, I grew up in an ice fishing family sort of a deal. It's like, no, there's girls who are embarking on getting into the sport, getting into both open water and ice fishing, because finally they feel, like they have gear that's comfortable for them. So it's been really fun to be a part of the DSG family for the last few years. I've made a lot of really great friends that have just contacted me about the gear, and then we start talking fishing, and I've got to meet up with girls from all over the place that have been involved with the brand. So it's been a really, really fun to be a part of that.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I'll tell you, you are such a great ambassador. DSG is lucky to have you. What I hear on Woman Angler and Adventurer, Angie's podcast, Angie Scott, is that women that are into this design are just like men that design outdoor clothes, do it for men. And like you say, you can't call it a woman's wear when you just downsize men's wear. You got to understand that a woman might get pregnant. Yeah. And she might be a lot bigger and have curves that go a different way for a while. And then she's going to go back to pretty much the way she was until it goes through another life change of some sort. So recognizing that we're curvy in different places, that we've got different needs as far as comfort on the ice, being able to go to the bathroom, being able to attend to whatever personal hygiene we need to attend to. A woman designer is going to be more in tune with that, I think. And DSG seems to understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better. It's women's gear that is, designed by and for women. You can't get more straightforward in terms of adequate functionality than that. And it's just, what I think is really cool too, about that brand is from the get-go, they have we have like kind of an open water team of girls and a ice fishing team of girls and a hunting team of girls. And us as a team, we're completely involved from start to finish in the design, which what other brands are still doing that? There really aren't, and they're sending out, even just test runs for some of us the season before to test it out and give critical feedback of like, okay, I think this works well, this doesn't work well, let's swap this out for this kind of a thing. And it's just like, man, I have not encountered that, with most brands are just like, nope, we placed an order, like it is what it is. But getting to be a part of the design aspect and knowing that it's been kind of tried and true field tested is you can't beat that.
Well, it sounds logical. It sounds like something that makes sense. I'll tell you one thing. My wife just loves you, loves your attitude, because you are not afraid to talk about comfort. She says, John, you guys go out there and just seem to hunt up misery. You just seem to want to be miserable. A fine and pleasant misery is what you're after. You're out getting wet. You're out getting cold. You're out in the wind. You're out doing this or that. But I told her all about how you will do the most insane things on the ice, which she says 60 below, no way I could get that. But I say she gears up for it. She does not want to be uncomfortable. She does not want to be miserable. She does not want to tell stories about how she got froze to the ice drill. And it's great that we have women that aren't afraid to say, look, I don't want to be miserable. Is that a problem?
Exactly. Well, and those of us that, had experienced who were dumb enough to experience all the, the uncomfortableness and, before any of those things were, possible. Like, if you look at all the technology advances, I mean, look at how nice even like the, different, the ice fishing hubs and the shacks that are out there now. I mean, oh my gosh, those things were not in existence 15, 20 years ago. We all just used to be sitting on a plastic bucket, freezing our butts off, wearing way too many layers. And, it's changed. And I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think having gear that people can enjoy the outdoor sport, these outdoor sports comfortably, it's a game changer. It allows people who are, not the weekend warriors. Well, it allows people, to be able to enjoy it.
Yes. You want people to be comfortable. When it comes down to the clothes, you got to be able to move around. Your boots have to fit and things like that. And it's not wrong to say so and to say, hey, make me something comfortable that actually fits me. So good job, DSG outerwear. Oh, also one thing I wanted to mention, we keep talking about Nicole like everybody knows who she is. It's Nicole from Nicole Stone Outdoors, which she was also on Fish Nerds talking about walleye and what walleye can see color-wise and so forth. And we had a lot of fun with that interview. And I may have to run her down and ask her a lot of the same questions I've been asking you. But anyway, what is your big aspiration? Okay, you want to get out with Freddie and Ben, and you want to do the family thing and all that. But let's say 10 years from now, Freddie's 10 years old. You're 10 years down the road. You've got some mad money. You've got some things going on. Where do you want to go? What do you want to be doing?
Ooh, that's a good one. You always got the good questions, John. I want to be able to. I think, as any parent, and you can probably attest to this, you want to be able to provide your kids this, the opportunities that maybe you didn't get to have, that you really wanted to as a kid. Ben and I talk about it all the time. It's like growing up in the Midwest, we had a lot of stuff at our fingertips, but being able to hunt and fish in kind of these new dream locations that we, like I said, as kids kind of dreamed about. It's like, oh my gosh, we live here now. And being able to, bring our kids along on those kinds of experiences will be just priceless. I think that there's a lot of things that we've accomplished in the last 5-6 years and gotten to see and do some really cool stuff. And it's like, oh, I look at some of the experiences I've had in that short time frame. I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to, show this to my child and get them out in the outdoors the way that I kind of dreamed of at that age. So that's definitely a huge aspiration for me. And still having that balance. I know that Freddie and any future kids that we have, it's the outdoors are going to be a giant part of our lifestyle. It's going to be really cool to prioritize that for them and even for us to explore some new stuff and have them in tow.
Well, I am going to be watching close and going to stay with this as long as God willing I can hang around here on this earth. I want to see Freddie and his first trip to Canada. I want to see Freddie get back to where Mama's from in that Minnesota water. And then hopefully he'll go with you when you go out there to catch the mahi and some of those things that you've been wanting to do before he came along. Well, now you get to share it with him. And it's going to be wonderful to see what kind of fishing he zeroes in on. Because we just did a thing about how younger you start, the more likely you are to stick with it for all your life. And boy, did that young man land in the great place. Super, super cool. Well, Anna, let's see. You were on Fish Nerds 239, Fish Nerds 240, and Fish Nerds 247. So, folks, if you want to catch up with my interviews from the old days with Anna Lessishin, now Anna Brady. All right, I got to do it. I got to picture it. I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it. I'm picturing the Brady Bunch going to Canada.
I don't think you're wrong. I think that might be it. I think that might be in our future.
I think it will be too, but I just couldn't get away from it. I apologize. All right. Well, Anna, if you don't have anything else you want to say or want to talk about, I could sit here and talk all day, but by golly, the remaining time is winding down. So final word.
No, I appreciate the opportunity, John, to catch up. I mean, I just laughed kind of listening back on those older episodes. It's like, just so much has changed. It's amazing how much can change in a really short time frame.
It is really, really is amazing, but that's what's so beautiful about being young and alive and finding your true love and leaving your heart open to experience and having the flexibility and the courage to make changes and having the self-understanding to be able to pick it up and run with it. Well, anyway, I'm just bubbling over here with hearts and happiness for you. And we wish you all the best from the Fish Nerds.
Thank you so much, John. I'll definitely keep you up to speed. Just be watching for some more of those mega perch pictures, because they'll be coming soon.
Oh, and one last thing. I do know where Idaho is, and you still owe me a fishing trip. So don't be surprised.
Hey, you're open invitation. If you want to hit Henry's Lake, we can go embark on the cutthroat adventure together.
All righty. Wow. That sounds fantastic. All righty. Well, listen, you take care of yourself and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good, John. Thank you so much.
All right. So wasn't that everything you want out of a story? I mean, it has romance, it has family, and most of all, it has fishing in it. All right.
I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear she's doing so well too.
Yeah, it is really great that she is able to. The reason I did it is, life doesn't end just because your fishing life doesn't end just because you start a family.
Yes, it does, John. Yes, it does. Just kidding.
No, it ends because you decide to go pro. That's when it ends.
That's when it ends. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to sit and watch people catch fish, or hopefully, and I get to sit and make their bugs for them. But all of a sudden, my fishing time's been cut into something fierce unless I'm testing. But it's just amazing that all the things that she's been able to do, and it's great for her to get to talk about how to rearrange her priorities. But she still loves fishing. She's still passionate about it. She just, as far as as a profession, she's kind of had to go at a slower pace, kind of backburnering it a little bit. But still, whether she approaches her goals as a professional or she just approaches them as a dedicated amateur regular fisher, I can see that she's going to take her family and go. And as little Freddie grows up, he is going to be blessed with a pair of parents. They're going to just have him outdoors all the time. Yeah,
these kids living their best life. They have no idea. So it'll be really good. So
it will be really good.
John, you just remind, we're done with Anna now. You just reminded me of a story I want to tell. Okay. You were talking about how I watched people catch fish all day.
Yes.
Right? So I'm going to tell you about, I guided yesterday, and I was guiding on Ospey Lake, which is in New Hampshire here. It's one of our big lakes. And the clients who wanted to come out were hardcore bass guys. And I always do my worst fishing with anglers who are hardcore, whatever kind of anglers they are. I'm great with kids, with families, new anglers. But these guys came out, super nice guys. And they wanted to be picked up at the dock they were staying at 6 a.m. So I got there on time. I have all the, I fish simply, John. I'm a bass guy, and when I fish for bass, it's Senkos. That's all I use. I don't even think about it. Just put a Senko on the hook and cast out and catch bass. And these guys are like, nope, we're not using Senkos. they unrolled this pack of fishing lures of these. They're like 9 inches long. They're huge, hand carved wooden fishing lures. They cost a few $100s a piece. That's what they wanted to throw.
Wow. So the big swim bait game. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, really awesome. And they look cool in the water. And they fished about an hour and a half. Didn't catch anything. I said, "Do you guys mind if I make a cast?" I made one cast, John, and bass jumped out of the water over my Senko, and I hooked a big pickerel who broke off at the boat. So I had 2 hits on the one cast. I didn't touch the rod the rest of the day because I didn't want to be the only one catching fish. That was the only fish we saw the whole day. Was on that one cast I did. Total skunk day. Total skunk, John. I hate getting skunked as a guide.
Yeah, I know you hate getting skunked as a guide, but they were out for big bass using the big baits, and it's a lot like musky fishing. We've talked about on the show a number of times. I mean, you're going to use a big bait, you might only get 1 or 2 strikes all day, and you might get none.
Yeah, the nice thing about using a big bait though is it feels like most of the fish I usually catch.
Right.
They're huge. I can't even imagine throwing those things. I'd be afraid of my knot. I don't trust my fishing knots enough for a $300 lure.
Exactly.
I don't tie a $300 knot. I tie a $1.25 knot. That's my budget, especially with clients. Holy smokes!
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
man. But man, any guide who are listening right now, if they've ever taken clients out and got skunked, they know how bad that feels.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's terrible, and you're never getting a call back from them. So, but.
Well,
one never knows. One never knows.
You do never know, because I know that you've had other people say it was just super fun anyway. We go back a few episodes. We don't have to look far to find
that's true
stories along that line.
I forget things, John, because I'm just so sad. That's all.
When I'm in my depression, I can't even remember my own name.
Oh, poor me. All right. But anyway, I got
Indeed.
paid to go fishing, so there's worse ways to spend a day. And it was a great weather, too. All right, John, can we talk about National Podcast Posting Month?
Are we talking about NAPOD POMO, National Podcasting Posting Month?
Yeah, NAPOD POMO. And that's coming up in November, which your probably listeners are like, what? November? It's only September, right? But plan ahead. We have to fill... Right. So National Podcast Posting Month, every single day for the month of November, we want to put out a podcast. We want to have 30 shows in 30 days. And last year we failed because I had giant computer issues. So we didn't get through the whole month. I had... My computer completely burned down on me. Year before, I think for 2 years before, we were able to fulfill that.
We did it.
Goal.
We sure as heck did it. Yes.
And the way we do it is by having help. And the people who are helping are you, the listener. We need you to help us. So, John, you kind of pitched the idea this year. What's the idea?
Well, you let me pick the idea this year. I said, hey, can we do pet peeves? Because I think everybody's got a pet peeve in fishing. There's a YouTube channel called Brandon's Fishing or something like that. Anyway, Brandon's pet
You don't like
peeve
Brandon? He's your pet peeve?
No, I love Brandon. Or Brendan. Anyway, his videos that get 6 and 7 figure views are all him doing his pet peeves. It's a great topic, I think, and you said, heck yes, let's do it. So I'm excited about it.
Well, this is fun. It's a fun topic because you can be really serious and have pet peeves about litter and microplastics. Or you can have pet peeves about people, like the way they hold their fishing reels, and you can really rant and have a good time with it. And we're looking for listeners to call in and give us a pet peeve, but give us some seasoning on it. Give us a rant. Make us laugh a little bit, make us think, make us cringe, but hit us with it. And the way you do it's super easy. All you've got to do is call us. The phone number is easy. It's 607-378-FISH. It's the Fish Nerds hotline. It's always there for you anyway. You can call up, drop a message anytime. We'll play it on air. And we're even allowing people, John, if you run a business and you want to get a free plug on our show, when you leave that message, leave your plug for your business. So you can say, I'm from Glasswater, England, and whatever. You can say that. And
or I'm my YouTube channel, Glasswater Angling, featuring Crappie Hippie.
Exactly.
What I would tell you when you go, this is another reason I want to give people plenty of heads up. Because, not everybody's a couple of ham bones like you and me and just loves being on the air. It gets people nervous. And when you hear it's right after death is one of the scariest things is doing public speaking. But to submit a peeve, all you got to do is pretend you're talking to friends, talking to your family, talking to your buddies, and just think about what you want to submit. You want to submit something on litter bugs or inconsiderate boaters or people that ooch in on you or whatever it is. You think about it, practice it a little bit, get comfortable. Like I say, just chill, talk clearly, just like you're telling a story to somebody that you think will enjoy it. And of course, yeah, you can call the Fish Nerds hotline, or you can use your phone, your little recording attachment on your phone, your recording app on your phone, and then email the file to either clay@fishnerds.com or crappiehippie@glasswaterangling.com. You can send audio files either place. And even, or another very convenient way is you can go to fishnerds.com, and there's a nice little microphone icon there. And you get all ready and you take your deep breath and you've practiced a couple of times. You just hit that icon and by gosh, you can record it right there and it'll come right to us.
Easy.
But you got to give us some information about yourself, no matter how you lay it down, no matter what you say.
And we'll edit it out. We won't share your address on the
info
on the podcast.
No, we will not share your address
your name,
on the podcast, not your
maybe
email.
What state you're from. Yeah.
Right. That's just it. At the minimum, we just need a first name, a region, or a state where you're reporting from. But you want to get into it and say, you know, I'm Betsy Smith and I have an Etsy channel where I sell oven mitts designed with fish designs. And this is what I was out at Lake Charlie and this happened to me. Someone knocked me off the dam into the water and then asked me if I got wet. We can get, we can get that specific, or we can be that vague, but we got to be able to get, if you want us to get hold of you again, we got to have a way how. And I'll tell you, anyone who submits an email will automatically go into a drawing pool for glasswater angling, fishing tackle, and any other prizes we have laying around that we want to get out. So we always have listeners get in on this every year, but I would like to have more. I mean, Tim and I put out quite a few a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. We have some great listener submissions, but gosh darn it, you folks are this program. You're the reason we do this. One of the great things about podcasting is we can all get in on it. We can get the audience in on it along with us. We've got to make 30 of these mini shows. So please help us out and look, think about it, get some peeve, practice what you want to say about them, and then send us a segment. If
John,
you would.
Wouldn't it be cool if you and I never even got a chance to share our pet peeves because so many listeners had to share theirs?
That would be great. And I'll tell you another thing.
That's a dream for me. Yeah.
That would be a dream for both of us. Yes. To really get that sort of reaction. And don't worry. Don't be like, we're down to the 25th and I don't, I might as well not submit one because they probably have enough. First of all, you don't know whether we have enough or not. And I don't care if we get 100.
We can double up. Yeah.
We'll either double up or we'll just keep using them on the show till we get them all aired. You send us in a piece that's listenable, and we will definitely share it. We will not discard it. We will not circle file it. We will definitely get it on the show sometime.
Easy as that. So yeah, please, Dad, we'll remind you more as we get closer to November, but you can start submitting right now. That'll allow us to plan ahead a little bit, which I don't do. John's a planner. I don't plan at all. I look at the show notes 1 minute before we go make the show. John's got it planned out 3 weeks in advance. He's like, let's talk about episode 328. I'm like, I don't know when we're on. I have no idea what you're talking about, John. So so get him done ahead.
Yeah, we are a pair.
Yeah, we are beating that dead horse, John. So anyway, we'll talk more about that later. John, we're out of time, buddy. I think we covered everything.
Well, it sounds like they've listened to a couple of fish nerds when they should have been fishing.
Yeah, big thank you to Anna on Ice for coming on, to Tim Beat, for coming back to life to do some lure love with us. John King, the crappie hippie. Thanks to Wally Pleasant for our theme music. Who else we have to thank? Oh, Fish in the News, Diana's Bath Salts. Missing anybody?
Just our families. And of course, we want to thank our Patreon listeners and Fish Nerd Nation for bringing your ears right on in here and letting us fill them up with fishing stuff. And I'll tell you, folks, if you want to help us grow the show, tell your friends about the show, because word of mouth is the most powerful form of advertising there is. And also, if you would like to leave us a wonderful review, that gives us a lot of cred with the analytics and all that kind of stuff and gives us more legitimacy. So if you want to do those things, you want to help grow the show, please don't hold back. Help us grow this show.
Yeah, we could use it. And we've been doing it a long time. So Until next time, John, follow the code of the fish nerds.
Spawn early and often.
Never trust a free lunch with strings attached.
And swim against the current every chance you get.
I think we did it, John.
I think we did it.
Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean, casting nets, fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast. Just for the halibut. Fried in a basket or broiled in a pan. Eat it raw like you're in Siam. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast.
You mentioned fly fishing. They have one called the larva Z, and it looks like, you know, a little larva. But the amazing thing is it's 1 3/4 inches long. Half of that is the thinnest thing you've ever seen. I think you could fly fish with this very easily, and it's a soft bait. And I know some purists would say, "Oh, you know, we're not going to do that," but it's almost so small that you can't fish it with a jig head because of the body, but it's so durable at the same time. And that comes in some great colors too. I mean,
that larva Z is something I want to definitely try out when I head east. I don't care. I'm impure. I am totally impure in so many ways. I mean, we could make a podcast about it. So I'm not afraid to fish a plastic on a fly rod, baby. I'm not afraid to put that in front of a rainbow or a brookie or a brown, and because I know they're going to scarf it right up. This is the Fly Angling Purity Authority. I repeat, the Fly Angling Purity Authority Enforcement Division. We have information that you intend to fish a plastic on a fly rod. This is not allowed. I repeat, the Fly Angling Purity Authority. We are coming to confiscate all of your fly tying and fly fishing equipment. I repeat, be prepared to be detained and all of your equipment taken from you. I'm telling you, getting away from the fly angling purity enforcement people ain't gonna bother me none, because my friend Nick dug me an escape tunnel. All I gotta do is open the trap door and hear a note. Hey, bro, we went fishing instead? I owe you one escape tunnel? Love, Nick.